Okay, it is 3:30. We'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. And when I ask you to roll call, just unmute and just say here. Mr. Art Taylor,
Here.
Ms. Serena Fish,
Here.
The boss.
Jeff Woodward.
Woodard.
Woodard, yes, sir.
Present. Hi, Bob.
And Reverend Dr. Bridget Black.
Here.
Robert Bosquez is here. And do we have Pastor Bennett? Okay, Pastor Bennett is not here yet. If he does come in, we will make sure we record that. Okay. Oh, there he is. Pastor Bennett, you want to test your audio?
Mic check.
Okay, Pastor Bennett is here. We will go to public comment if there's any. Ms. Nora, was there any public comment?
No, I don't believe we have any public comment.
Okay, just a couple housekeeping things real quick before we get started. We do have to be done by 5 o'clock in order to meet the Open Meetings Act because the doors close here at 5 o'clock. So we want to make sure we stay on time. And then Nora has a comment on the executive session.
Thank you, Chairman. We do have an executive session today, which works a little bit differently in the virtual world here. We will adjourn this meeting. You will receive a new link to join the executive session. We will conduct our business there. We will adjourn that. You will receive another link that is identical to the one you have had to join this meeting. So you're basically going to rejoin this meeting. And then we will adjourn the regular meeting. So, and I can explain that again as we get closer to the end of this portion of the regular agenda.
Okay, thank you, Nora. We will start off with Mayor Renner. If he is on, Mayor Renner, are you on? Yeah. Okay, I don't think he is on, but I had asked Mayor Renner to come on to give us a little bit better explanation of the meetings he wanted us to host in regards of defunding the police. Can we skip that and come back to that, Nora, if he does come?
Sure, you can table that item.
Okay, we'll table that item, and if he comes on, we will go back to Mr. Mayor Renner, and because I believe he is on a time limit, so we'll go back to that. We'll move on to approving the minutes of August. Did everybody get a chance to look at those minutes? And one question I do have is, does Dr. Bridget Black vote on these minutes, and she was not a member yet?
She should vote, but she should abstain.
Okay.
So you'll do your roll call vote, and Reverend Black, if you'd abstain.
Perfect. Did everybody get a chance to look at those minutes, and is there any comments or additions? Hearing none.
Chairman, I don't
Oh, yes, go ahead.
see any additional information that was not included in the minutes. So I move that they be accepted as published.
Okay, and Serena, you second that? She's throwing two fingers up.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, we will vote on those. And we'll start with Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Serena Fish,
Yes.
Dr. Bridget Black,
Abstain.
Pastor Bennett,
Yes.
and Jeff Woodard.
Aye.
Okay. Any additional comments on those? Hearing none. Mr. Renner, are you in?
Mr. Bosquez, if you vote on the minutes, did you roll call vote yourself?
Oh, I did not. And I forgot myself. Thank you. And I vote yes as well. Okay. Moving along, we'll go ahead and go to item number 6. And that is the introduction of our newest board member, Dr. Bridget Black. We want to welcome you, Dr. Bridget Black, to the PSCRB board meeting. We believe that this board is very important currently to issues that are going on not only throughout the country, but here in Bloomington Normal. So we want to give you a warm welcome. And if there's anybody else that has any additional comments to welcome Dr. Bridget Black, I encourage those.
Just say
Mr.
welcome. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mr. Bennett.
I'll just say welcome, congratulations, Reverend Black. And as we kind of talked about before, we know that you'll be a great asset to this board. Congratulations.
Mr. Taylor, go ahead.
I too want to echo what Reverend Bennett added. Reverend Black, we're glad to have you on the board. We know that you're going to bring quite a bit of expertise and experience to our unit. Welcome. Let us know if you have any questions along the way. We'd be glad to get those answered for you. But I thought that your appointment was something that we should be all very proud of, and we're glad to have you.
Mr. Woodard, go ahead.
Yes. Welcome, Pastor. I'm really excited to have you on the board, as I know a lot of what you're doing in the community in the past, and even the work that you're doing now with the community discussions, I think will be a real asset to the.
Serena, did you have anything? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, welcome, Reverend Black. When you were presented to us as a possible candidate, let you know it was a unanimous decision. I've worked with you in some meetings. We've had meetings at your church. So thank you for taking the time to do one more thing for your community. Thank you very much.
And now, Dr. Bridget Black, do you have anything you would like to say before we move on?
I just want to say thank you for having me.
Well, thank you and welcome. Okay, we see, I am echoing. Am I echoing?
You are.
All right, hold on one second.
I believe it is because the mayor is unmuted.
Oh. Okay, there we go. We do have Mayor Renner here, so we'll go ahead and go back to number 4. Mr. Renner is on a time limit. So Mayor Renner, thank you for coming to our meeting.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for serving in all the ways that you're doing this, because this is in many ways a thankless job, but a great thing. Am I having an echo here?
His mic is not unmuted. He's muted.
Can everybody hear me okay now? I may be blithering on, but I'm not blithering on in quite as annoying a fashion. But I want to thank all of you. This is it's always been a critical board. And I can tell you that when I go to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the number one, by far, sometimes people ask a little bit about Rivian, but when people come up to me, they'll say, how in the world did you get a police civilian review board? It's like mystifying to people. And anyway, we do, regardless of all the details of it, we do. And I want to applaud all of you for serving. I do want to clarify, and I want to thank your chairman for giving me a couple of minutes to clarify perhaps a somewhat ambiguous request of a couple of months ago when I sent you a letter asking that you conduct some public hearings over the next few months, and let's keep that time limit pretty flexible given COVID and other things. But to talk about our law enforcement procedures and how we might be able to reform them, how we might be able to improve them. And I would ask that you think broadly beyond any box. And that's what's certainly going to be necessary, and not just in this community, but throughout the United States. And clearly, we have some issues between minority neighborhoods and some of our older neighborhoods and the police. Many other communities are far worse. So regardless of that, that doesn't mean that we can't improve. In fact, we must improve. If we are in a reasonably okay shape, then let's move to a situation where we're a model for others to follow. If people are modeling us to even have a review board, then let's have that review board make some aggressive moves toward gathering public information and public input, taking a look at what's out there. And you could, this in some ways, I think, whether I'm mayor a year from now is another story, but I would think that this is probably something that should be a perpetual, an obligation, but task of the Citizens Review Board. And that is to take a look at our current law enforcement procedures and protocol. How are they, what are the things that are working well? What are the things that are maybe only working okay and we can tweak? And what are the things that are not working well at all that we might need to change and change quite dramatically? And these could and should include recommendations of perhaps reorganizing and maybe hiring different kinds of personnel within the police department to work with our police officers. We certainly do have some people who have some special background in working with at-risk youth that are working with the police. We, this summer, would have had a much more aggressive unfolding of an at-risk youth summer job program throughout our summer programs. Mostly it would have been through the Parks and Rec department, but COVID limited that to less than a handful of people who could participate. So I don't mean to say that that's the only recommendation that you might have, or maybe that would even be a recommendation that you might have for us to put some emphasis on the prevention side, but certainly to push forward and say, these are things that we're hearing, these are things that occur to us, these are some recommendations, and doing a little bit of homework on our own of reforms that seem to have been effective in other communities, or at least are on the table for consideration here for us to try, even if they're on a pilot basis. So essentially what I'm asking is a very broad charge, and I apologize for that because I don't want anything to be limited. We know we have a national pattern. We've known that long before this past summer, of people who are of color, who are more likely to be victims of violence, not just in their own communities, but by police officers, and be more likely to be killed for whatever reason that might be. I'm not going to go into the details, but this is a national tendency. This is a national pattern. We may not have had a specific incidence that is so violent that it shocks one's consciousness like Minneapolis, but let's do whatever we can to ensure that that never happens in our community. In 188 years, it hasn't happened. Let's be sure in the next 188 years that it doesn't happen. And I would appreciate whatever input that all of you can provide. I am not trying to put any limitations on this in any way. It would be nice to have this by around the first of the year, but I also know that COVID is happening, and the extent to which we can interact with people directly in public hearings is severely limited. So I am not putting any limitations on that other than, let's say the outer limit. It'd be nice to have at least some preliminary feedback before my current term ends, which would be April 30th. So thank you all so much. And Chairman, do you have any follow-up questions of clarification for me?
I did not. First of all, I want to correct myself. I said you would task us to defund the police. You have not. You had asked us for ideas for reform.
Right, and whatever that might be, and you know, if it's, let's say, like reallocating some of our resources to hire people that are the equivalent of our personnel who work with at-risk youth, I don't necessarily consider that to be defunding. I would say that that's kind of reprioritizing. So regardless of what it is, just please take a look at what our community has to say, their suggestions, and give me your honest input, because that's what I've asked for you to do. I would ask for nothing more and nothing less.
Well, thank you very much for coming in and speaking on this. I do want to ask our board if they have any questions. Would you be willing to
Of
field
course.
questions? Thank you.
I wouldn't be here if I wasn't willing to do that, but thank you.
Does anybody have any questions, comments, or anything for the mayor? We can start with Pastor Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor, for being here, and thank you for clarifying things for us. Just for understanding's sake, so that what we bring back to you, if my hearing is correct, is a combination of what we're hearing from community and community leaders, along with what our board puts together. So I just want to make sure that as what you're putting before us, it's okay for us to put before the community and community organizations and leadership as well to partner with what may come back before you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. There's nothing, the Open Meetings Act applies here. There's nothing that's double secret probation on this. In fact, quite the contrary. When I ran initially on transparency that we didn't have much of in City Hall 8 years ago. And I think we made some progress in that, but certainly in something like this, we don't want anybody to think something's being done behind the tables or there's some kind of secret deal. No, this is just, you all do your job. If I happen to see any of you at an event and I ask a question, and if I ask you a question, it would be innocent. If you think it may be somewhat overstepping my authority, would you please say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with that. So I want to make sure that your independent judgment come forward with an independent assessment of what we ought to do better. And again, everything should be on the table. Thank you, sir. And I appreciate that, Reverend.
Thank you, Pastor Bennett. We'll go to Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor, for coming in and speaking with the board. We really appreciate, first of all, your leadership as well as your confidence in the board for taking on this task. I only had a couple of things that I wanted to just basically touch on, and one of them being that this board was initially established as the review board for police complaints and to take community dialogue during our quarterly sessions to basically be that communication piece between the police and the community, as well as making recommendations to you and the city manager, as well as the city council for changes that we may see. From what you've mentioned, it appears that you're asking us to take on the additional task or an expanded role, if you will, of not only what our original charge was, but also to make broader recommendations toward policing, as well as recommendations for improvement across the board with reference to policing, if that's what I'm understanding. And I just want, first of all, clarification on that. Is that your intent for our dialogue sessions that that you're asking us to have in the future, as well as our an expanded role to make further recommendations for policing in general, with reference to reallocation of resources, as well as tactics that police may use when enforcing the law and dealing with citizens. And I just wanted to make sure that I had a firm understanding of your request, as well as the position that you want the board to take going forward.
Thank you very much, Art, and thank you all for you and your wife for all the great things you do, by the way. But I think there's only one minor correction I would say, but I think you hit it right on the head. The only thing that I would say is I personally don't view this as expanded. When I moved to have this established to begin with, my view of it was a very broad view from the very beginning of your charge, that how in the world could we have a civilian review board of police law enforcement actions if they didn't also have the broad authority to look at how we are administering law enforcement, or what changes that we might make, and what improvements or reallocation of resources or reallocation of funding might be necessary. So I'm asking you for this, and personally, I don't happen to view it as an expanded role of what I initially thought, because I initially thought this review board should have the broad role to do all of these things. And I would encourage you not to run into boundaries. Please, you will do your community, not me. You know, I'm a temporary occupant of this position, trying to do the best that I can. You're going to do the best for your community if you think the most broadly and the most widely, and don't worry about, oh, well, you know, we might be overstepping our authority if we recommend X, Y, or Z. Please do. Let myself and the city council make the determination then based on your independent, honest recommendations of what we should do. Let's see if we think, well, you know, maybe that's going a little far, but that's a good idea. Please think as broadly as you can. You're all wonderful, gifted people, or I would have put you on the commission to begin with. And as I say, I appreciate everything, and I look forward to the however long process it takes you to come up with a report. And I would also say, please don't stop just because you pursue something. If you issue a report, let's say in February, and in March or April, something comes up and you've got a new idea, please, I would consider this a perpetual charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your clarification.
Mr. Woodard, go ahead.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up, Art. And Mayor, I do actually view the board in similar fashion in terms of making recommendations, be it whatever they are, whether it's tied to a complaint or not. But that being said, we may need to refresh ourselves as well on the bylaws of the board to make sure that that's clearly spelled out.
Mm-hmm. Well, whatever you need to do, certainly you can get in touch with our legal team, Jeff and others, you know, and we can certainly help in that regard. But I would hope that moving forward, this board, this is the first very broad step in something that ought to be part of your normal, consistent charge in terms of examining our community. Because as again, I don't know if you're only varying, and I don't mean you all, but some have said have even voiced this to me, that there's the police review board, the civilian review board is narrowly charged with only responding to certain things. How in the world do you do that effectively if you're not considering the entirety of the process and constantly looking and examining at new ideas and new procedures to stop complaints as you see them? You all have your ear to the ground in this community and are well plugged in this community and have great instincts. And that's what we need to tap into, not silence or protocol. I've never been a big fan of protocol, as probably most of you know. So in this situation, I would say, let's broadly interpret your role and move forward. Let me also say that there's not because this is a couple months ago that I had a soft recommendation or request of the chair. This has nothing to do with any specific thing that our police officers or our department may have done. This is part of a broader concern, not just of our community, but throughout America. You know, we have a moral, legal obligation, I mean, the elected officials, to move forward and do whatever we can to improve police relationships in law enforcement practices, and certainly police minority, police older neighborhood relationships whatever it might be. And if you've got a good idea, I am thrilled to help try to champion that, or good ideas, plural. I mean, shouldn't have said a single idea.
All right, Jeff, hopefully did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Serena, go ahead.
Hi. Basically what I wanted to say was kind of along the same route as Art and Jeff. The other thing, and thank you, Mayor, for clarifying, just because we've already run into some things where people were wanting us to do something on the board, and in our rules and regulations we could not do, or we weren't slotted to do. So I think anything we can do to make it clear what we can do or what you'd like from us, questions as we go along, would be very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena. What I would recommend is, if you've got some bylaws that are inconsistent with what you need to do, get rid of them, change them. Bylaws, I don't want to say bylaws were made to be broken, but they were certainly, any kind of rules or procedures can be changed and adapted. If you got a broader moral obligation to our community, and if your soul is crying out for something that you think maybe the bylaws don't help you with, then get rid of the damn bylaws, or the whatever provisions, not all of them, whatever ones may prevent you from acting in the way that you think is right. Please do what you think is right. That's all I could ever ask.
Thank you. Dr. Black, did you have any questions or comments about the mayor's request? Okay. Mayor, I think you have answered people's questions.
Thank you all so much. And I appreciate this. I mean, I don't have to tell all of you that this is one of the top, if not one of, well, certainly one of the top 3 or 4 issues of facing this entire nation right now. So thank you all, and stay safe.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Have a good day. Well, thank you, Mayor. Hopefully that cleared it up a little bit as far as his request. Is there any, do we want to, any other discussion to move along, to follow before we move on to number 7 here on the agenda? Serena?
One of the things, I don't know if that's here or later, you and I attended the Invest meeting at the BCPA. So at some point, I'd like to see us discuss that, or you present what you heard there. Because that, to me, was a good, some things that came out of there. Also, I had asked the mayor, and I had contacted Linda Foster, that the NAACP has come out with a 10-page strategic action plan, and I'd like to see us review that also. Thank you.
Anybody else? Dr. Black, I believe you were next.
Yeah, I like a copy of the bylaws.
Okay, we will get those
Or
to
where
you.
I can see it, if they're online, where I can look at them.
Yep, we will make sure to get those to you. Anything, Pastor Bennett, go ahead.
I think, Reverend Black, was you finished? You had something else you were about to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the NAACP 10-page action plan goes way beyond the police review. It talks about education, health, etc. And I don't know if that's what we need to be reviewing.
Yeah, and I would, as to what you asked, Chairman, as to the conversation we just had with Mayor, at some point, I think we need to move into creating a list of agencies that, or organizations that we can bring to the table as far as, or to the virtual table, I should say, to kind of hear their thoughts, maybe also set up some times where the community can just come on and speak, some things where we can hear that, as well as our board reviewing things since we have the green light to, because I think we've had a lot of conversations about our bylaws, what we can and cannot do, and us kind of reviewing if that needs to be part of that list that we bring to the mayor as well, within those changes. So since he's asking for that 1st of January kind of situation, we've got a couple more months. So at some point we can maybe get into how we're going to carry out those dialogues.
Okay. Serena, did you have something?
No, there were some things, well, the 10-page strategic action plan, I know contains a lot more than, but there were some things in there as far as early education and some in talking to Linda Foster, some things on getting more minority recruitment into the police department, which was one way to upgrade. So invest, but not divest. So I just would like to say that that would definitely be something I would like to review more closely. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
I thought that the mayor's conversation was quite informative for the board, because the reason why I mentioned that I thought that it was an expanded role is because we have been very conscious as a board to basically remain within the bylaws that we were charged with. And now that he's basically given us a green light to open up our board to a more broadly based review of issues and policies and administration and other issues that go beyond the scope of complaints and complaint review, that we may want to take a look at bylaws for additions and amendments to the bylaws as they are currently written. I would be happy to take perhaps with one other board member to review our current board rules and see where we may wish to amend them to include this more broadly based review process and suggestions. I'm happy to do it. I also think that we as a board, having been established and basically have lived within the guidelines that were originally set, this board, I think, is prepared and perfectly capable of an expanded role that the mayor is suggesting, and that I think that we should undertake. And I'll listen to other conversation about that as well.
Serena, go ahead.
Yes, and I agree with Mr. Taylor, and I think he would be the best person other than you to review the bylaws. And I'd like to suggest that would be something that we would put on the agenda for our next regular meeting and discuss. Thank you.
Dr. Black, did you have something? Okay, sorry. I thought you raised your hand.
Okay, so I know now. Don't move your hands.
No, you're fine.
I talk with my hands.
You're fine. We're all still learning. So I agree with I agree with Mr. Taylor as well. We do need to look at our bylaws and to see what expanded, what additional language we need to add or if there's any language that we need to subtract. Is there, besides myself and Mr. Taylor, does anybody else want to be part of that? Looking at reviewing the bylaws? Because I'm more than happy to do it with Mr. Taylor. However, if you want to take that lead as well, I will step back and let you do that.
Chairman, I think that that you and I can take a look at those and make a recommendation without, and I'm assuming that we wouldn't need a vote of making a charge to review those board rules. Nor I don't think, or Jeff, if you're listening, I don't think that it's necessary for us to conduct a vote for the chairman and I to conduct a review of those board rules and make recommendations to the board at our next meeting.
You actually cannot make a vote. It's not on the agenda that you will be voting on it. So I think you're just coming to a consensus that that's something you'd like to do.
And that's the way I thought it would be. Thank you so much.
So again, yes, Mr. Woodard.
Yes, with that being said, I would caution that, I mean, just to clarify that anyone on the board could should be free to and come back with suggestions or recommendations. So.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, we're not gonna hold it back to just me and Mr. Taylor. If you're,
right.
Please feel free to, am I echoing?
I'm unmuted.
Sorry, that's okay. I heard the echo. Please, it's just not to us. Again, it's a consensus. Everybody's input is important. So if you do have input, please share. I think we're supposed to be having our quarterly meeting next month. So we'll have to maybe get together before, Mr. Taylor, and we can put it on next month's agenda in order to do that. Is that okay with you? Okay. All right.
If I can just caution you as you're having this discussion to be conscious of the rules of a quorum, and that applies electronically as well. So you don't want to have more, you don't want to have a quorum communicating on this, whether in person or electronically.
Thank you for that, Nora. Okay, well, that will conclude, let's see, that was number 4. We went back to number 4 about mayor's request. Any other additional comments? If not, we will move on to agenda item number 7. And that is recently Chief Donath retired. And I just want to say that I've known Chief Donath for a couple of years now. He would drive down my street when he was on patrol, and he would just stop and we would talk, have good conversations. He was always open to anything, any question. If you wanted to call him, I had his cell phone number. If I had something to come up with, issue, he was very open, very transparent. Even though he was a chief for a short time, he was on the force for 20-some plus years. So a lot of people, I think, sometimes will forget, okay, he was only chief for, maybe a year, a little under a year, but he was on the force for a long time. And I greatly appreciate him for his service for this past year. And I just wanted to say that as the chair. Now, did anybody else have anything else? If he has a chance to go back and watch our video to share. Any comments or suggestions? Mr. Taylor, go ahead.
I was on the selection committee, the interview committee that Chief Donath went through the entire interview process when we brought Chief Donath on board as the police chief. And I fully supported Chief Donath in the selection of him as police chief. He basically had done his due diligence with the Bloomington Police Force over many years, and I appreciate the service that he expended toward the city of Bloomington. And even though his role as chief was very short, he was always open to what we were trying to do as a board. He was very supportive of the PSCRB from its outset. If you remember, he was one of our first liaisons with the police when we first were established, and I appreciate that that time that he spent with us, and I wish him well.
Pastor Bennett, go ahead.
I'll just say quickly, I don't know what we're doing because since we've been established, we've had 2 chiefs retire under us at this point. So I don't know, the board doing something wrong, but no, the Chief Don, yeah, he's, for the short time that he was chief, he was always supportive of the board. And anytime that I personally needed him to do something or asked him to do something, he was always supportive. So very supportive, and then wishing him the best in his retirement.
Serena?
Yes, I did have a contact with the police chief and wished him well. However, I do also want to thank him for his service and the short time that we did have him as chief. He seemed to be extremely receptive of everything that we as a board came up with and or recommended, and basically implemented, I think, everything we ever recommended immediately and followed through. So I wish him well. And we've got still another one, Mr. Greg. So he's been with us for a while too. So welcome to Mr. Greg and farewell to Mr. Donut. Thank you.
Jeff, did you have anything?
I would just echo the sentiments of everyone. He was enjoying, looking forward to working with the next chief, and we hope you don't run off too soon on us. And Chad, we looking Chief Wamsley, we looking forward to working with you as well. So don't take off too soon and retire on us. So.
Dr. Black, did you have anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, may God bless him and bless his family. And may retirement be good for him.
Thank you. Assistant Chief Wamsley, I know you work with him closely. Is there anything that you would like to share?
Okay, sorry, I couldn't get unmuted. No, it was too bad that he left this early. We're kind of hitting everything in stride with everything going on in the world out here. So, but as we kind of have a motto. I mean, everybody's time comes that it's time for them to go and move on with their lives. You can't do this forever. So I'm happy for him. I wish him well. I hope he enjoys his retirement. We'll keep plugging on. Like I said, I think the chairman had mentioned Greg Scott is the interim chief right now. So same kind of policies apply. He would say if he was here, he has an open door policy, myself, Assistant Chief McCoy as well. If you guys have any questions, concerns, please reach out. We want to talk with everybody. We want to hear everybody's side, see what we can change moving forward.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing with that. And with that, we'll go ahead and just move on to item number 9, Mr. Assistant Chief Wamsley, which is the general updates from the police department.
Actually, we are on item 8, discussion of complaints received.
I'm sorry. Thank you for, yeah, that would be correct. That'd be discussion number 8, discussion of complaints received, Chief Wamsley. Sorry, I jumped ahead.
That's all right. Okay. Just to kind of update everybody where we're at right now. As of today's date, we received 13 complaints since January 1st. Of the 13 complaints, there are 5 that are still pending. There's at least 2 of them that are just about done. My Sergeant Wright, who does all of our internal investigations, he had a vacation since our last meeting. So we kind of got behind just a little bit because of his vacation. So we'll get them wrapped up here shortly. Just to kind of break it down so everybody is aware, In regards to the complaints, and I know Dr. Black, you're kind of new to this, so I just want to kind of preface on here that what I'll go through is the complaints versus a number. So how many complaints versus of excessive force, how many complaints like dissatisfied with service. The number here will not match up to 13 because each complaint could have multiple allegations, just so everybody's aware. But right now we are sitting at 3 complaints of excessive force, 1 complaint of dissatisfied with service, 2 complaints of unlawful search and seizure, 1 complaint of courtesy to public, 2 complaints of theft, 2 complaints of violation of policies or rules and regs, 4 complaints of harassment, 2 complaints of unlawful arrest, and 1 complaint that it's really kind of unknown. Kind of digging into that, we really don't know what the complaint is. We're having a heck of a time determining it right now.
Thank you for that, Chief Walmsley. Of any of those complaints, I know you said 2 out of 3 are almost done, so that leave us with 2 more pending. Do you see any of those moving forward to a review from our board?
There is one that's possible. It's mainly, and I can't go into it in detail, but it's mainly the individual not understanding the law. We've tried to explain that to her a little bit. She's having a little difficulty with that. So she may be bringing it to the board, but I can't say for sure. We have not sent the letter out to close that one out yet. So.
Okay. And let me just go say, Dr. Black, too, if there any time you have any questions, please just raise your hand. If we're moving too fast or something you don't understand, please just, let us know and we can try to get you filled in. I know it's a little bit difficult online. You're trying to catch up, probably still trying to understand all the laws and everything. So please, at any time, just feel free to raise your hand and interrupt at any time. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board about the complaints received? Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Chief, for the report. The question that I have with reference to the underlying complaints that are in addition to the 13 that we have. And it's the question that I ask most of the time. Is there a recurrence of a specific or 1 or 2 police officers that these complaints, that they have multiple complaints with reference to some of the underlying complaints that we have? Is there a recurrence of 1 or 2 individuals that are being complained on more so than others?
Of all the complaints for the year, there is only 1 complaint that, there's only 1 officer that has had more than 1 complaint. I will preface that being said that one of the complaints against that officer is from an incident that was several years prior. So it hasn't been anything that has happened recently or even within the year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments for Assistant Chief Walmsley on the complaints received? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to, now we'll move on to item number 9, general updates from the police department, and that would include, any awards or anything else that you would like to share with us, Chief Walmsley.
Okay, yeah, the awards, I think I'm going to hold off and I'm going to do them at your quarterly meetings.
Okay.
And I'll just read them off at that point. But I will give everybody an update. Since our last meeting, currently we have 4 individuals who are in the police academy right now. We hired 2 lateral transfers. And boy, I've got to think here. It was either a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I'm getting my weeks mixed up. We hired a male officer who worked down in, I believe it was Swansea Police Department, and we hired a female who worked at Eastern Illinois University Police Department. So they are currently in our FTO program. On Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, we will be hiring 2 more applicants that will be going to the academy on, I believe it's the 13th, on Sunday. So we're moving in the right direction when it comes to that. In regards to the wellness program, oh, I'm echoing somebody.
That's me.
Okay. We just held our second wellness class last week. We have another one coming up the 1st of October. We're getting great reviews from our officers. I think they are very, very impressed with the program that's been put together. The next avenue that we're going to be doing is producing this wellness program in the form of like a syllabus. We're going to be presenting that to the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board to get our wellness program approved through the state. So we're hoping to be kind of on the cutting edge of this statewide, being that wellness is a requirement now for all agencies that they have to put on for their officers. Our goal is to make our program kind of be the one or the model for everyone. So other than that, that's about all the report that I have. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them.
Well, hearing none, well, thank you very much for your report. We greatly appreciate that. Hearing no questions or comments, we'll move right along to item number 10, and that is the board vacancy. There's currently 1 more vacancy left. I did try to reach out to the mayor and ask him about that, and he said he was not willing to speak on that currently. So I don't know where we're staying. I'm not sure when, if they've made a decision or if they're going to bring it to their next council meeting or not. So I really have nothing to update on that. I did pass along our consensus of the 2 individuals. I believe it was Laura and Miss Willis. And I haven't, like I said, I haven't heard back. We did receive another applicant. I believe it was that day we were discussing. The ones that we had received. And so the mayor is going to take that one into consideration as well. And I believe, I'm not sure if that was shared with you guys or not. Did you receive, I believe there was, I'm trying to think of the name. Mr. Tice, I believe it was. I don't have it right here with me, but I will look at that, and I will, I believe I forwarded it on, but I'm not sure. I can't be positive. If I did not, I will forward that application on to the board as well. I did not. Serena, go ahead.
I didn't get.
Okay. Yes, I will forward that on for you guys to look at as well. Again, I don't have any other updates that as of when a decision is going to be made or how quickly. So, you know, there's really no updates. I just wanted to make sure I shared that with the board. Did anybody have any questions about that vacancy or not? Okay. We'll move on to item number 7, and that is a discussion of future meetings, dates, and topics. Like I said, I think so September, we have to host a quarterly meeting. So some of the topics that we want to discuss is, well, I guess first of all would be a date. And I think Nora, are we going to have to kind of look again ahead and see what's available? Okay. I will get with Nora and we'll get a date down, and then I will share that with you guys. I did relapse and did not share ahead of time this date. You know, I think Mr. Woodard had reached out, and Mr. Taylor, that was on me. I did not confirm with you guys what date it was. I know I had put 2 dates out there, but I just didn't confirm and let you guys know what dates we decided. So let's, with us coming up with the date, let's discuss some topics that we want to talk about during this quarterly meeting. Mr. Taylor.
Am I on mute? Okay. If I'm correct, we should be holding a quarterly meeting sometime in September. And that would put our quarterly meeting sometime I mean, I believe it was originally scheduled for about the 21st or so. And I'm speculating, I'm not looking at a calendar, but I'm thinking that that quarterly meeting was supposed to be sometime toward the middle of September. And if that's the case, then we definitely need to send out invitations as well as come up with agenda items for that meeting. So part of that, and I guess since we have this charge from the mayor that that even if we are not prepared to hold huge meetings about the topic of community policing and recommendations for changes to the police department or things that people would like to see in policing, that we at least have preliminary discussions with the community, even to the point that we schedule additional meetings above and beyond the quarterly meeting for these discussions. And that's my thought. I'm just thinking out loud, and I'm wanting to know what the board is perhaps thinking along the lines of topics that we would want to raise with reference to community discussion around what our new charge is from the mayor.
Go ahead, Serena.
I would definitely like for the quarterly meeting coming up, because we don't really know where we're going yet, but that the consensus is that we've been given additional duties in the community. We've expanded the role of the PSCRB board, and going forward, we're going to be looking to all of the original stakeholders for more ideas, inclusion, and we may end up holding a meeting with each of them or some of the representatives, but that's the way to me right now.
Mr. Woodard.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the fact that prior to pandemic, we had agreed as a board that we would have the department come in as part of the public presentation and give us an overview on the current marijuana laws. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but we were actually set to do that, as I understood, before the chief left.
I don't recall that. But then again, we were on hiatus there for a little bit, but I'm not saying you're not correct. Yes, Serena.
Yeah, I think Mr. Woodard has got a really good point to just like we're different than we were 4 months ago, or we have different things that we're supposed to be doing now. But also, I think Mr. Woodard is really good in the fact, that there have been some changes, and I think we need to review what some of those laws are. Also looking at some of the zoning things going on, especially with the addition of recreational into Bloomington, which before it was only in Normal. Thank you.
Chief Walmsley, if we do put that on the agenda, would somebody from the police department or yourself be available to kind of give an overview of the marijuana laws?
Yeah, we would be able to do that. Give you a brief little seminar.
Okay. I will add that to the quarterly meeting then. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? Mr. Bennett, go ahead.
I just want to second, I think Art might have said it too, the need to engage about what Mayor put before us, and to put that out to the community that to come to the quarterly meeting and talk, I think is very important. And with this conversation going on, to make the community feel as partners, to be able to have a voice in that. So I think, you know, with only a couple months left, I don't know how many more quarterly meetings we would have to kind of engage them and allow them to kind of get a voice on that too. So.
Nora, this is a question. So quarterly meetings, do we have to do them virtually? Can we do them in person?
The same rules apply until the governor's order changes. So
Okay.
I would recommend you still have a virtual component if you're looking at something in September or October.
Yeah, this is one of the tough deals right now is, you know, of course, we would like to all get in a room and be face to face and discuss. I'm a face to face person. This is a little difficult for me. But unfortunately, we cannot do that, as Nora stated. However, I'm still willing to have more meetings if possible. Again, I just have to get with Nora and make sure we have a date that works, first of all, for us. And first of all, for the city, make sure the space is available. And the second of all, make sure everybody's can make that date and then hold those meetings. So, you know, it's a little bit of a task, but we can do that. We definitely can do it. Dr. Black, go ahead.
Talked about drawing up a list. If this quarterly meeting in September, why don't we invite those original stakeholders and tell them what we want to discuss, bring their ideas to that meeting?
Yes. So when we do have quarterly meetings, the chair does reach out to the stakeholders through an email and invite them and anybody. I would, once I have that, I will encourage the board as well, to invite any context that the board may have to attend this meeting, because the more ideas, the more people that attend, the better it is for everybody. The transparency, we want to get these ideas going. We want to get these ideas flowing. There's a lot of people in the community who have good ideas. However, sometimes it's difficult either to get them to previous meetings or even sometimes to get them to our meetings. Now, if a time is an issue, then we can always look at changing the times. Currently, what we do is when we have our quarterly meetings, we also have our board meetings 1 hour prior. So we'll have our quarterly meetings will start at 6 o'clock, and then we will have our board meeting before from 5 to 6, and then the quarterly meeting 6 to 7, 7:30. We did it later in the evening because we know some people, a majority of the people maybe work till 5, maybe even 6. So that gives them a little bit of time to able to attend our meetings. But again, if time is something that we need to look at, we're always open to look at different times and or dates. So Nora, I guess I have a question. To this quarterly meeting, do we have to host it in September, or can we push it to October?
You can absolutely push it. Technically, it's not, you can call it your quarterly meeting, but it will still be called a special meeting for the Open Meetings Act. So you can do it whenever, really.
Okay. So I would suggest, and this is just my personal suggestion, is that we push it to the early October, if that is okay with you guys. And if not, we can definitely look at the last week of September in order to have it still in September. But I want to make sure I meet with Mr. Taylor and we go over these bylaws to make sure we have something before we get to that next board meeting. Yes, Mr. Taylor.
I'm in complete agreement with that. That perhaps our next quarterly meeting be in early October, but that would give us plenty of time to take a review of the board rules, and that could be included as part of our agenda at the quarterly meeting, in addition to some of the things that we have had as regular items on the quarterly meetings, such as a review of police complaints year to date, and wellness issues, et cetera, that are normal items on the agenda, but they could be quick hits. And that we spend some time on marijuana changes in the laws and enforcement of them, as well as an introduction to what our charge is going forward surrounding community policing and recommendations going forward. And if those are just some simple items that we could just jot down, then that could possibly be our agenda for our next quarterly meeting.
Serena, go ahead.
Yes, and I agree with Robert and Mr. Taylor that we should make it later. And I would move that we let them come back to us with a date once they're ready with the changes in the bylaws, if there are any. And also when we're ready to hear some of the changes in the marijuana laws. So I would leave it up to Mr. Taylor and Mr. Vasquez to come back and say, we're ready to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena. Yeah, you know, because I don't, one thing is I don't want to do is I don't want to rush anything. Because once you rush, sometimes you skip the fine details. So I want to make sure we go through this slowly and make sure we get feedback from the board as well, because that's very important. And then, of course, these laws have to get voted on by city council. So it is going to take some time, but rest assured, we want to make sure we're doing this correctly. So thank you for allowing us to just push the special meeting to October. I greatly appreciate that. Any other comments or agenda items for our quarterly meeting or special meeting? Sorry. No? Okay, hearing none. Nora, can you discuss again, fill us in on the executive session, please?
Sure. So at this time, and we'll have to move along expeditiously. So you all should have received an email with a link to the executive session.
Yes.
After we adjourn, or not adjourn, we won't adjourn. After we move it, after the chair, excuse me, does roll call so that we can move it to executive session. You'll end this Zoom call. You'll move into that executive session Zoom call, and then we'll do our business there. For the public, anyone who's viewing this, the only other action that the board is going to take after they come back into regular session is to adjourn. So that is all. And Chair, what you will do is cite the section down there on the agenda. So you'll say that the board is going to move into executive session per section 2 of C21 of 5 ILCS 120, and then do roll call, and then we'll move into executive session.
So I'm going to do a review of section 2, C21 of 5 ILCS 120. Do I have to make a motion?
No, we're just moving into.
Okay. To move into executive session.
Or yes, do a motion. To move.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Woodard motion and Serena second. Okay, so we'll have to log out.
Roll
and
call.
Roll call, I'm sorry, yes. Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Aye.
Dr. Black,
Yes.
Pastor Bennett,
Yes.
Serena Fish,
Yes.
And yourself.
and myself, yes. So we'll now go into executive session. Remember to log out and log back in.
You're muted.
Okay, we are back in regular session. I will make a roll call. Motion to return to regular session. Can they hear me?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Do I have a second? Ms. Fish is second. Now I'll do a roll call. Pastor Bennett,
Yes.
Dr. Black,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Aye.
and Ms. Fish.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion to adjourn.
So
Do we
moved.
have it? Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor, and Dr. Black, seconds. Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience. Roll call, Mr. Bennett,
See you later. Yes.
Dr. Black,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
So long.
Mrs. Fish,
Happy Labor Day. Yes.
and Mr. Woodard,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you for your
Take care.
patience. Thank
See you
you.
later.